Hey, all, welcome to the Common Good Podcast. It's Tuesday. Rob, this feels like the old times. We're on Tuesday, about 9 a.m. Central Time. We're going live.
Right. It's almost as if we're like getting our stuff together and being grown-ups again.
We are men with very low standards of what it takes to feel accomplishment. You know, it reminds me of, I wear one of these Apple Watches, and it sends me little, it sends little notices that you've done a good job.
Yeah.
And it has now recently gotten to the point where it just says, you stood up. Good for you. Just the simple act of standing causes the artificial intelligence on my wrist to cheer me on.
Yeah. It used to, I think before this update, before this new incarnation, it used to congratulate you on breathing and would occasionally remind you to breathe, which frankly, we need that sometimes.
I do.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath.
You know, as you know, Doug, my brain is full of, old contemporary Christian music lyrics because of, how I grew up.
Yeah.
And there's a line from a Jars of Clay song, and now it just flew out of my head. I have no fear of drowning. It's the breathing that's taking all this work.
Wow. Huh. What does that phrase mean to you? Like,
oh, we're gonna psychoanalyze me now.
Well, yeah.
Sometimes it's just
Why'd you pick that? Why'd you
remember
pick
to
that
be
little
alive.
Okay, I see.
Keep at it.
Yeah. Well,
And
let's
thankfully
consider this
we've got
our because we couldn't figure out that I'm now standing, or that standing is a good thing, or that I need to breathe without some kind of reinforcement. Yeah, you know what I've noticed on some technology and gender connection. When I talk to male friends or other men that I know about AI, like ChatGPT, there's a wondrous, childlike dream in our eyes. And if I talk to my wife or a lot of the other women in my life, they could not want me to stop talking faster about this. Just please stop telling me how great this is. And I've just, it has caused me to just take a real pause and be like, oh, I think there's something going on here. I think this is.
There's also, I think, too, an age component to that. My children, who are in their mid-20s and down, have no use for AI.
What? I totally thought this was going another way. I thought you were going to say you're just functioning like a Gen A or whatever we're in.
No. I think AI might be most popular with,
middle-aged white men.
Middle-aged white men wearing blue hats.
Well, it works. I'll tell you, it is right in it's hitting dead center.
You know who else is popular with middle-aged white men wearing blue hats, hosting a podcast?
I don't.
Congressional candidates,
which we have a chance to talk to.
Congressional candidates that we get to talk to. Congressional candidates that are candidates for common good. Congressional candidates that are running for office. And we've got one today to chat with a little bit. Amanda Edwards is running in the Texas 18th District, which is Houston area. And she's joining us today. Amanda, thank you for being with us. It's so great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me on. I'm really thrilled to be here.
So it feels like midterm elections have already started. I know plenty of people who have announced that they are running for Congress or running for the United States Senate. And everybody's thinking about 2026. Your race is not about 2026, though. It's about 2025. It's coming up this November. Is that right?
That is correct. Due to the unfortunate passing of Congressman Sylvester Turner in March of this year, we had to have the governor call a special election to fill the unexpired portion of the term that he was serving. And so that special election has been called for November 4th, 2025. And as a result of that special election being called on that day, it is going to be very confusing for a lot of people because, as you stated, you've got the 26 elections already in tow. And so we have to really work hard to accurately and effectively get the message out about our campaign and about the election taking place this year as opposed to the following year, which of course is also happening as well. But for a full new term, this election is about the unexpired portion of the term. And so basically the new congressional member will have about a year left of the current term to serve once actually in office.
Wow. So,
And
Amanda,
this
my
is-
wife asked me last night, she said, I was telling her that you were going to be on bragging about this, that I get to be around someone of your caliber in politics. And she said, well, who's in that office now then? Who's representing the people of the 18th Congressional District? How does that work?
Sadly, the question is no one. The answer to that question is no one. 800,000 people are in the 18th Congressional District, yet and still they have been without a voice. They have been without a vote. They've been without an advocate for federal funding. And if you count up the time when we've had two tragedies in that Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee passed away. And of course, there was a vacancy created then. And then, of course, this vacancy because of Congressman Turner's passing and then delays with regard to the calling of the special election. It's almost a year and a half out of a 2-year span where the 800,000 people who reside in the 18th Congressional District have had taxation without representation. And unfortunately, it has come at a steep price. That big, beautiful bill that Donald Trump, championed, as he called it, was a terrible bill for the 18th Congressional District. It stripped $900 billion from Medicaid. It stripped $300 billion from SNAP benefits. And in the 18th Congressional District, there is actually a disproportionately higher number of people that take on and receive those SNAP benefits. And so it is going to have a dire effect within the district, yet and still there was no one there to cast that vote against it. So much so, and what's the kicker here is that the measure only passed in the House by a margin of 1. So had the seat been filled, we could have blocked the big, beautiful bill that Donald Trump is so proud of that it will wreak havoc on the lives of so many.
Yep. Do you think the folks in Austin are like playing politics with the special election? Is that what they delayed calling the special election because they knew this would be a safe Democratic seat?
That special election could have and should have been called in May. And yes, there are politics being played with people's lives. And the unfortunate part of this is we've got to get away from that. That's what our campaign and work is about, is that we cannot afford just to play politics with people's lives in the ways in which we've grown comfortable doing in our current politics. When I was growing up, my dad was very ill. He got diagnosed with something called multiple myeloma when I was 10 years old, and he died from it when I was a teenager. But I'm telling you this story because it really was a kind of a fundamental just pivot point in terms of my perspective on things. And I remember that when my dad got sick, I would ask him questions about this insurance stuff that I was learning about because I didn't know anything about all of that as a young teen. And I'd ask him, well, what happens if they say no to the life-saving care that he needed? And I'll never forget his answers. He would always say, well, we would just have to figure something else out. And I was a young teenager at the time, and I knew that that wasn't the right answer, and that the right answer should have been that we actually have systems that work for people because there are real lives that lie in the balance of the decisions and the policies that we make or choose not to make. And so who are going to put people over politics. 800,000 people deserve to have representation, whether they voted for you or not. We've got to get into the business of really being serious about governance and delivering for people and bringing that back into the focus instead of just throwing red meat to your base. And so much of what our politics are today is the latter rather than the former. And that's why I think people are excited about my candidacy, because they see themselves being represented and prioritized. And they want that instead of what's happening today, which is, again, gamemanship to delay having representation for the seat until November. Like I mentioned, it's a year and a half nearly without representation over the course of the last 2 years.
So have you thought about being a congressperson for a lot of your life? Did you pivot from your teenage years right into a path to run
Well,
for?
It gave me it showed me that leadership, service, government has to be about more than just politics. And it's got to be about smart policy. It's got to be about impact. It's got to be about making a difference in people's lives. And so I was always somewhat interested in public service. Didn't know exactly what that manifestation would be per se, but I did have the opportunity 20 years ago to work in the 18th Congressional District office in DC. So this is a very full circle moment for me. Because I was, a young adult running around on the Hill and learning so much. And that, I think, was, just a wonderful opportunity for me. So, certainly had interest early on in how do we impact change with laws and policy and make a difference, and always was part of my just DNA was to be involved in helping people and leadership. And so it's kind of just a natural progression.
Did you work for Representative Jackson Lee?
I did.
Right
So
on. Well,
I
she's
worked
one
for
of our
her
favorites, of course.
right out of college. That was my first opportunity in DC, was to work for her out of college.
Wow.
Before I went to law school.
Amanda, what would people be surprised about when they think about like what it's actually like to run for Congress? I think when people think politics, they think like the West Wing and making speeches to big crowds and snappy dialogue all the time with staffers. I mean, what would people like? Like they're just regular people doing this. Like what's it actually like running for Congress?
It's kind of like, many aspects of it are very grounding. When you have the opportunity to talk to people and hear their stories and see their eyes when they say they want to believe in or have a restored confidence that something better can happen for them or their families, it can be a little intense, but I think that's good, and that you've got to carry those stories with you, and people are vulnerable with you and they open up and tell you, what is plaguing them, what makes them anxious, what makes them worry, or what are their hopes and their dreams. And then they hand that to you and say, now go do something about this. And both intense, but it's also great form of motivation. It's inspiring. I like to tell stories because those stories are stories that inspire me. I don't love politics. The maneuvering for power and for power's sake. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to make an impact. I'm here to make a difference. And when I get to connect with people and their individual stories and the things that have happened to them, not only does it make you a sharper leader because you really have an informed perspective, but it also gives you that motivation, that gas, that fuel to power through the aspects of this that are not fun, that are politics that I don't really love. And you power through that because you want to get on the other side and make the change happen for these folks. And I, will share with you a story that also sticks with me quite a bit. And when Hurricane Harvey happened in Houston 8 years ago, I was a
Mm-hmm.
city council member at that time. I had the opportunity to go and just visit some of our senior citizens, and I learned that a lot of them were cleaning up their houses, but they weren't removing the walls
Mm-hmm.
that had been soiled by floodwater from the home. So,
Wow.
like I know, if you don't remove those walls, you're going to get mold.
Mhm.
So we mobilized hundreds of volunteers and we started going door to
Hmm.
door. And what would happen was what struck me most and what makes the story so crucial is this. When I would knock on the doors, the first question they'd ask me is, "What are you doing here?" And I'd
Hmm.
say, "Oh, I'm your city council member. I'm here to help." And then they'd ask me this follow-up question, which was, of course, in the face of the second worst disaster in US history at the time. And they'd ask me this, and they said, "But wait a minute, are you up for reelection already?" And they'd ask
Wow.
me that question house after house after house that I'd go to. And of course, it's telling of a very broken democracy.
Yeah.
They are so, the fact that I was standing on their doorstep, surely I must be there because I need something from them, as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
me actually being there to do my job or show up for them and make a deposit into their lives. And that story sticks with me because there are so many folks that are used to only being relevant when it's time for campaign season, only being relevant
Mm.
when and all the politician only knowing their name when they need a vote. But what about when it's time to deliver? What about when it's
Mm-hmm.
time to impact change? What about when it's time to convert these speeches into reality? Do we find these individuals then? Do we make good on the promises that we've
Mm.
made on the campaign trail? And I think for me, one of what that story is indicative of for me is that I want to be part of the movement to restore confidence in
Mm-hmm.
government and show up and to not overpromise and underdeliver, but to do the opposite, exceed expectations. And I think that that can be done. I think that our community deserves that. I think they have lost a lot of their confidence and faith
Mm.
in what is possible. And I want to see us put the type of leaders in that will stop at nothing, and to do what is right for their community, and no matter what those consequences are.
Hmm. Hey, if we could, because we have an expert here on this, can you talk a little bit about the difference between what somebody who's in the city council or somebody who maybe is in the state legislature and somebody who's in Congress at the federal level, what they do? Because a lot of
Mhm.
us don't think about the differences and we don't really know like what's a federal thing and what's a city thing and what's a state thing. And people like to say things like all politics are local, but really all politics are personal. Somebody's
Yeah.
just experiencing the political, and they don't really care if it's federal or state or city or whatever. So talk any you want about like what's the interplay of those, and what is it about being at the federal level that has you super excited, and what do you think after you're sworn in as the congressperson in the 18th congressional district are you going to miss about being a city council person?
I will say I explain it, in terms of just local politics. Local government, they deal with a lot of the management of a lot of the things that you touch, feel, and address every day. Do you have a police department,
Mm,
fire trucks, sewage,
yep.
just some of the day-to-day running water things, safe, clean water, public safety are kind of some of the main tenets of what you think about when you think about city government and what they're tasked to do to protect the interest and public safety of the public that they serve. City council members get an opportunity to vote on ordinances,
Mm,
approve budgets that really, keep a city running. And so it's almost kind of like a board of directors in some way of a city, and then you've got your mayors and different structures in different cities. But
mm-hmm.
there's a huge opportunity to impact change in a variety of ways. Now you can stay very connected to those real direct city function type efforts, or you can do some things that help to stimulate the local economy, for example, which is a lot of stuff that I did. I started working and to support small businesses owned by women and minorities who were lacking access to capital and the ability to scale their business. I started working on and leading an effort to cultivate an innovation economy in Houston, which led to the creation of an innovation district and, of course, an increase of what VC investment was available to startups in our city by an increase by more than tenfold over
Wow.
5 years. So, you can do things that are outside of the box too.
Okay.
And the nice part of it is you can kind of do what you think fills the voids. And I always call it, the job requires you to walk and chew gum. So you've got to deal with the problems, disasters, things that come up, flooding, but then at the same time, you get to seize opportunities that could otherwise be missed without your leadership. So it's a lot of fun serving on the local level. At the state level, it's been a little rough and tumble in Texas with our state ledge. We just wrapped our state legislative session, and there's a lot of challenging laws that have been passed and that are harmful. So there's a lot of kind of blocking and tackling that takes place on a legislative front. Things like education are kind of front and center at the state level. Some issues around healthcare and things of that nature are also on the state level. But it's a multiplicity of things, so the state is kind of a tough place here in Texas. And so, it wrapping up, I think a lot of people are glad that it's wrapped up, but Austin is a unique space. Let me just put it that way. But I am not seeking to go to Austin. I am seeking to go to DC, which is also an interesting place, as you know. But in DC, from a federal perspective, you're dealing with things like federal laws like Social Security benefits, what happens with our veterans, healthcare access from a systems perspective. Now we're dealing also with economic opportunity and taxes and, just a variety of broad federal issues, international affairs. Those get decided at the federal level. So bills that you can author amendments, you can try to block legislation. Our job as a congressional member is to use that policymaking component, but also to vote on measures that are proposed. But you can also be an advocate, both with your voice using the bully pulpit, as well as being an advocate for federal funding. That's another large part of the work. So my background is public finance. I was a public finance lawyer for a number of years before I became a city council member. And so as a result, was able to, bring public funding to public projects. And you got to do a lot of that when you are in Congress. Your district is expecting you to, quote unquote, bring home the bacon. So you've got to find ways to bring in the support. In a district like the 18th Congressional, we've got two major universities. We've got downtown. We've got one of the biggest, our biggest airport in the city, all in one district. We've got all these neighborhoods and infrastructure needs. So there is a huge emphasis on things like infrastructure investment and for the 18th Congressional District, given the fact that we flood a lot and we have a lot of storms here. So there's a lot of that sort of thing that you also are tasked with doing. And then finally, the last part of your job is to do constituent response. People might call you because they've got a passport problem. People might call you for a variety of reasons. They have Social Security issues. And, you become their advocate, you become their case manager, helping them navigate through how do they get to a resolution. And so when I was like in the city council office, I called it grandmother standard of care. And so when people called our office, you don't just click them over to another department or tell them you can't help them. You would do what you would want somebody to do for your grandmother. So if you would want somebody to make the introduction to the person that's going to be working next with them, that's what we're going to do. And we case manage. So we don't just say, I hope that works out. We keep up with the case and follow up and make sure that we apply the pressure to make sure it works out. And that's the kind of standard of care that I think people deserve. It's customer service at the end of the day. It's a different kind of job. It's not, you're not working at Walmart, but you are working in an environment where people task you with a responsibility to serve them. So we've got to do that well and treat people with dignity and respect in that process.
I feel like there's a lot of people who feel like they get treated better at Walmart than they do by their congressional
Oh,
representatives.
and we got to get out of the business, as I stated. We know how to find people when it's campaign season. We know your name. We know where you vote. We know what coffee you drink when you vote. We know all the things. But when you start calling the office and asking for stuff, I mean,
Yeah.
selective amnesia, people want to duck and dodge. It's not always the right way to approach service. And so when you've got to know that people deserve better than what oftentimes they receive. And so again, we're trying to restore that confidence in government again.
Well, in the chat, Alex makes a comment that Jim seconded. She said, "We need a new word to use instead of politics for that job that you're describing.
Public
that better
service
reflects what it's supposed to be. The word has come to mean, corruption
I
and all
think
the
public
rest."
service, it's service. That's
Yeah.
what this job is. It's
Yeah.
service. It's serving the people. It's serving them well, and it's getting them results. So I think there's too much emphasis on the politics as well.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Oh, great. Well, I was just going to ask a politics question. So
okay.
normally...
Go ahead, drag us back into the political
election,
gutter, Rob.
That's right. I know. Normally in election, there's a Republican against a Democrat. Maybe a Libertarian, Independent, a Green Party candidate, some other folks thrown in there. But that's normally what it is. And those candidates are chosen through a primary process, which happens earlier in the year, where the parties vote and who their representative is going to be on the ballot. And then this special election doesn't have that. It's a little bit of a free-for-all. Talk to us about, you're not running against one Republican. You're running against a whole bunch of people.
That's right. Yeah, so it's one big giant general election.
It's a group
and everybody's on one ballot at once. In Houston, we have nonpartisan municipal elections, and so I liken it to one of those in that everybody's on the same ballot at the same time. If you have too many people in the race, then it forces you to get into a runoff if nobody gets 50% plus one. I think right now we're over 20 candidates that have filed federal paperwork interested in the seat.
Wow.
So we're going to have a large swath of people to choose from. Democrats, Republicans, Independents, all on the same ballot. So things like name ID and that sort of thing really makes a difference in a situation like this. But our work that we have to do is make sure people know the election is happening on November 4th, 2025, and not that we're talking about some 26 election like everybody else is. And of course, that is the challenge, is to really try to reduce the message confusion that exists because of the autonomy of this race.
How do you stand out in such a crowded field like that?
Well, for me, I'm the candidate in this field that has the experience. I've born, raised, and lived in this district, and went to public high school in this district, worked in the 18th Congressional District in this district in DC. Also had the opportunity to be the public finance attorney, has done funding of public projects in this district, has been the city council member, so has the policy experience, has been on the ground with residents. I know where the gaps in federal funding are. I know where the gaps in federal policy are based on experience. And you need somebody who can get in there, not just have wonderful ideas, but you know how to actually execute on those ideas and know how to really address the needs that are happening on the ground. And so I'm the people's candidate. I'm very grassroots in the neighborhoods. That's always been the way that I've served, is just listening to people, meeting them where they are. And you can be far more effective that way than trying to govern from a perch someplace else if you are present. And I think, Congresswoman Jackson Lee understood that balance, in the sense of, she always knew that it was important to get back to the district and be a part and among your residents. That's how you know what's going on. That's how you know what's needed. That's how, so much of the information flow happens when you just have presence. So that's another component of it too, that I think people really do expect. And so I'm the candidate they can trust to get things done. I'm the candidate that's been consistent in my commitment to this district. And more importantly, I'm the candidate that can push forward a bold vision in a difficult environment. that will still allow them the opportunity not just to get by day to day, but to also thrive. And I think that should be the goal. That should be the aim. As I said, you got to walk and chew gum. So you're going to always have problems that pop up and you got to deal with them, but you got to also look up and seize the opportunities. And I was able to demonstrate that capability as a council member, not just around housing, not just around transportation, not just around disaster recovery, but also just in terms of how we address the needs within neighborhoods and communities and helping them to envision what was possible for their areas and then trying to provide them with the tools to get there. So that I think is what distinguishes me as my body of work and experience, homes I've helped to rebuild, things, tangible things that and results, so they don't just have a trail of speeches and social media posts, it's work. And that's what they're sending you there to do.
Is the party endorsing someone? Are they going to get involved in the helping people select a candidate?
No. So the party a party does not officially endorse. Now there are endorsing groups. So there are clubs that do endorse, that are affiliated with the party, but the party itself does not endorse. It's not going to endorse.
Yep. Yeah. But Amanda, you have endorsed the common good, and we appreciate that very much as a common good candidate. We think that matters a lot.
Amanda, how can people find you, and if they're inspired by this, what can they do to help?
Well, if you really want to find me, come out in the neighborhoods. But
you're good. You're so good, Amanda. It's unbelievable. This is a master class, friends.
You can visit us at www.edwardsforhouston.com. You can contribute online, make a contribution, or you can volunteer as well. And you don't have to be in Houston to volunteer. We have virtual opportunities as well, so sign up. And also you can find me on social media. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter as AK Edwards TX. And I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as Amanda K. Edwards TX.
All right, so I have two questions for you about that. What does the K stand for?
So this is a fun way to wrap up this interview, I guess. It starts with K. My middle initial is K, and my name is K. So it's K-A-Y.
Okay. Great.
So it confuses people, and usually I'll just say K, and it's a back and forth for about 2 rounds, and then they'll get it.
After the second
round. And I'll say, I asked you not the initial, but what's your name?
What's your name? Okay, I love it. So when people type it in, it's an @ and then the letter A, the letter K, and then the full name Edwards. Hey, did you because your URL is Edwards for Houston.
It's at AK Edwards TX on Twitter.
TX, thank you. You have for your URL edwardsforhouston.com.
That's correct.
Was that because somebody already took, I don't know, Edwards for Congress?
We actually have both. So,
but this says something when you're like, I'm not.
edwardsforhouston.com, edwardsforcongress.com, all of it.
But you share the Edwards for Houston as your primary one, intentionally. Like, is that part of a marketing way of wanting people to know that you are for Houston, you're not for Congress?
I was a city council member too, so that stems back from my city council work. So just consistency.
Yeah. Well, I like it because it says that you're for Houston, not for Congress. Like I like that idea. It's.
But if you want me to be for Congress, we got that too.
in Congress, you got that too. You're just the best. Oh, you are. Hey, you're a good candidate. Amanda K. Edwards.
Amanda, thank you so much for being with us today. Boy, what a pleasure to chat with you. We wish you all the best, and if we get our big beautiful bus out on the road, we might have to take a trip down to Houston.
We just might have to
in November.
Hey, okay, so sorry. It drives Rob crazy. I do this all the time. We're just about done, and then it's like the light plane that's going to land, and then banks up again.
We're gonna circle one more time.
If you when you win in November, you have to run again in 2026.
Yeah.
Yes. Welcome to the world of a congressional candidate. It's nonstop.
every year for the next 2 years, you will be running. So people who want to be part of this Amanda Edwards effort, you can do it in 2025 and be there in 2026. So thank you. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
And you're welcome to sit around or stay around and listen to us go on with the rest of the podcast. Or if you need to go do important things for the good people of Houston, we understand.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
See you.
Thanks, Amanda.
Bye.
Bye.
Great, right?
Yes.
Great.
One of the best we've ever had.
Great.
It's the best.
Yeah.
I don't know. What am I saying? One of the best. Yeah. You know, when somebody says like you're in the top 5, that meant you weren't in the top 3. So it means you were number 4, number 5. She's like, that was the number 1 candidate. That was incredible.
Yeah.
Genuine, really insightful. It makes me want to move to Houston.
Yeah.
Should I move to Houston? Really? I love Houston. Huh. Well, I feel good about Houston. I've got a friend who pastors a church there called Ecclesia named Chrissy. I'm going to make sure Amanda and Chris are fast friends here. Give her all
fantastic.
Give her all the Ecclesia support. So, Chris, if you're watching this deep into the podcast, introduction is coming. Yeah. You know, Rob, watching Amanda's grace, intelligence, understanding, thinking about public service as the reason for politics makes it even harder to realize the world that we live in at the federal level with Donald Trump. Could there be 2 more opposite people in what they believe the reason for being elected to office entails?
Seriously.
I don't think so.
What specific thing are you thinking about right now, Doug?
Well, as Jim said in the chat, which I think is just wonderful, and how we missed it is on us. But happy Taco Tuesday, everyone. On Taco Tuesday, we like to be reminded that
Trump always chickens out.
Trump always chickens out. And I just want to say, I put up a Let's Go Taco banner on my socials, and I can't stop giggling about it. I think it's so funny because I have seen so many Let's Go Brandon shirts and flags and hats and banners that Let's Go Taco. Right now, I can't say it without laughing about it. But not only does Trump chicken out and talk big and then do none of the things. No, I shouldn't say it that way. Does all of the things 0 amount of the time. It's quite remarkable. And Amanda says things like, oh, when they call, you treat them like you would treat your grandmother.
Yeah.
What do you have to do to get that done? She goes to the door simply to say, I'm here to help. Just
that did remind me of the famous Ronald Reagan quote about the scariest words in the English language are, I'm here from the government. I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
I'm here to help. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if Amanda shows up at your door because you got a bunch of molding, sheetrock, yeah. We got to get rid of that old thing that Reagan said in 1964. You know what?
Listen, for those that might not know, the whole taco thing, Trump always chickens out, comes from folks on Wall Street, investors who are trying to figure out patterns that will impact the stock market so they know whether or not to buy or to sell. They figured out that when Donald Trump announces a round of tariffs, the stock market is going to go down.
Yeah, tough guy.
And then he, not long after that, once he gets a little pushback, he will announce that those tariffs aren't going into place and the stock market will go back up. And so they came up with the code word TACO, which stands for Trump always chickens out. as in he loses his nerve and he won't go through with the tariffs.
No.
But
'Cause
the
he's a
impact of that allows
chicken.
them to short the stock market and make a lot of money when it bounces back. This was an internal thing that, the smart money people figured out. And then Donald Trump found out, like it
Yeah.
became public.
Did
that
you
this
hear the
was a
press
thing.
conference where the reporter asked him? Did you
Oh,
hear it?
yes.
Rob, it was precious. She
He
brings it up
did
and says,
not
I'm
like
wondering,
being called
describes,
chicken.
as you did and said, that Trump always chickens out. And you can see him, because the camera's on him, the voice is off camera. You can see it start to dawn on him with his slow processing brain, because he starts talking. Well, I haven't heard about that, but maybe that's an okay. And then he's like, what does it mean? Trump, she says, Trump always chickens out. And he's like, chicken out? You think I chicken out? I don't chicken. And he just starts getting all tough guy thing. And then he goes on to say, but we are going to pull back on the tariffs. And this chickening out thing,
Yeah.
that he's a chicken, it's one of the great nicknames that I just hope, in the way that Let's Go Brandon was very obscure, but it caught on with as a euphemism for, say, do bad things to Joe Biden. People didn't even know what that was. This sticks for Trump because it's true. He is a bully who chickens out. He tries to bully Volodymyr Zelensky and then comes around to his view. Then tries to bully Putin and then comes around to his view. And then tries to bully China and then comes around to their view. And then tries to bully Canada and they go elbows up and he comes around to their view. Anybody who pushes back, he ultimately caves. He caves in all the time.
Yep. Do you remember when, in his first term, one of his favorite things was to talk about the terrible nuke deal that was made with Iran?
Yes.
That he pulled out of. He's now on the brink of announcing a new nuke deal with Iran. And it's virtually the same deal.
The same deal that he hated and said was
This
the worst
guy
deal.
who, the art of the deal guy,
Yeah. No.
like it's all a sham.
It's
all a sham.
Because I think his ability to differentiate between reality and whatever nonsense he's reading on his screen is the primary operating principle of Donald Trump. He posted, and you sent in a text, a reference to Donald Trump saying that Joe Biden was assassinated in 2020 and was replaced with a robot.
Yeah. Okay. We need to read this in case people aren't familiar with this, because this is rather significant. So,
because if you had to open your phone the other day while making some eggs and say into ChatGPT, did Donald Trump Truth Social the conspiratorial claim that Joe Biden is a robot? If you, like me, had to do that because you stopped dead in the middle of your kitchen on June 2nd, only to have your AI friend tell you, indeed he did.
Yes, which is why I, gave you the full screenshot from my phone of Truth Social, where you can see my little avatar. You can see that it was 8:01. You can see that my battery is full and my Wi-Fi is strong. When I sent this screenshot to you,
Hang on a minute. My battery is full and my Wi-Fi is strong. This is like a Rob Ryerson version of Friday Night Lights. Pure hearts, something like battery full, Wi-Fi strong. Let's go get them.
It's clear eyes, full hearts, can't
Yeah,
lose.
yeah. Well, it's battery full, Wi-Fi strong.
Wi-Fi strong, yeah. So Donald Trump retweets or retruths, which is the Truth Social version of retweeting, retruths a post from another Truth Social user whose username is LLIJH.
LLOSER. What is it?
LLIJH.
Oh,
LLIJH.
oh.
Yeah, maybe that means something. It's a picture of Donald Trump. Not a recent picture because
80s.
He's
80s
got
style.
a full head of hair, which he doesn't have anymore. He's holding up a peace sign, victory sign. Doing the
which is
Winston Churchill, Richard Nixon thing. And the post says, "There is no Joe Biden. Executed in 2020. Biden clones, doubles, and robotic engineered soulless, mindless entities are what you see. Democrats don't know the difference."
I'm going to put it in the chat, on the screen here for people.
This is the President of the United States, who is the troller in chief, posting on his social media network that his predecessor, the former President of the United States, who recently, by the way, diagnosed with cancer. Thank you very much. Thank you for the decorum. Hey, I think you should be going the other direction, Doug, and showing off my full battery and strong Wi-Fi.
It's
here's
simply incredible.
Here's
full battery.
Here's the president.
Wi-Fi
of the United
strong,
States.
man. Wi-Fi strong. Who is proud of the who brings up and is proud of the connectivity of their Wi-Fi? I've just never heard anybody.
If you can't get connected, you care about how strong the Wi-Fi is. Here's the president of the United States suggesting about his predecessor, a man that he has met multiple times.
Yes.
That he is cloned, doubled, robotically engineered. Democrats don't know the difference. Does Donald Trump know the difference?
It's just
when Donald Trump was on the debate stage with Joe Biden.
Yes.
And Joe Biden was just woefully performing. Was it because the Wi-Fi was not strong and his battery was not charged?
He's low battery, weak Wi-Fi. Weak Wi-Fi Joe, they used to call him.
If you have a clone, a double, a robotically engineered Joe Biden, why
didn't you push him over?
Can you also have cognitive decline?
That's a great question. Yeah, look, you know what? I mean, that we could sit here and try to argue about how ridiculous it is that Joe Biden is currently alive and not a robot. What's more disturbing is that Donald Trump, again, I know I make this point a lot, told us that his social media statements count as official statements from the president. That's why he is shielded from what he puts in those statements from consequences that anyone else would, because it's an official capacity. As the official capacity, somewhere in the wee hours of June 1st, he chooses to repost something from someone else making a ridiculous claim. That's not even a conspiracy. I would love to push this to the level of a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy theory that Joe Biden was assassinated and replaced with a robot and clone. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a stupid statement. Why in the world is our president of the United States, the president of these United States, using his official capacity and his limited amount of time left to post this nonsense from someone else? That is what is so utterly disturbing, because you can get caught up in the ridiculousness of the claim that he is pushing any claim. This man is supposed to be negotiating with 100 nations our tariff deal. Hey, Don, get to work. Put your phone down and get to work. And if you're not sure what to do, call Amanda K. Edwards and ask her what a public servant would do in the job. Because what you are doing... Okay, Rob, I gotta snuggle in here. Here's the thing. I'm right on the verge of making a TikTok video about this. This is how serious this is. I will make a TikTok video, friends, about this. The fundamental belief of those around Donald Trump, especially Stephen Miller, is the belief in what's called the unitary executive theory. And the unity executive theory makes this argument. The President of the United States is a unique character in the government and has powers that no other branch of government can supersede. The unitary act of the executive is different than the executive branch. Here's their argument. There are 3 equal branches of government, as we all know from 6th grade civics class, or living in America. The judicial branch, which is the judges and all, that this White House says has no business determining laws. The congressional branch, legislative branch, makes laws, and the executive branch, the 3 branches, equals. In those 3 equal branches, there is a unitary figure, a singular figure in the executive office. That is the role of the presidency. They believe and have crafted unconstitutionally and out of whole cloth a belief, and not just these cats with Trump. This goes all the way back. Rumsfeld was into this. Cheney was into this. You know, Trump voting Cheney was into this. All these people believe in the unitary executive theory. And what they're suggesting is that the President of the United States individually can do things that nobody else can stop. So when you hear Stephen Miller saying, what, Donald Trump is supposed to not protect the country from an invasion because a bunch of judges? This is the power of the presidency. Anytime you hear power of the presidency, the Supreme Court granted portions of support or support for portions of this belief by saying that the president needs to be given wide latitude for any behavior taking place while in the executive function. That's why, for the very people who believe in the unitary executive theory, that when Donald Trump does stuff like this, we have to be concerned. If Joe Biden, if Barack Obama, if George W. Bush, any other president of this millennia had done those things, we wouldn't have to carry as much concern. We might think, hey, let's shore up the personal time a little bit and get back to work. But we wouldn't think this guy making these posts believes that he alone functions in a way that no one else on the planet does and is above all the laws. If it's something he, as the unitary executive, can do. That's why it matters. And if we think Rob, I heard a conversation the other day with a bunch of people in a poll, and it was the live recordings of the people in the poll. And one of the people said something that comes dangerously close to what we've said here at other times and a lot of people think. It was this. You know, when a president gets elected, they're talking about if Joe Biden should have told more about his health level of issues when he's running. Basically asking the question, do you think a guy pulls up with prostate cancer a few months after the election and hadn't been checked for that as a president? Or do you think he knew that his numbers were high and so on? So this question. The guy said, well, you know, basically the president gets elected and then the staff does all the work. And the only thing a president does is just decides this one or that one. He said his belief was a series of choices are brought before a president and they say, let's go with A with a little dash of 1. Let's make that combination. That somehow everybody else does the work and the president just makes the hard decisions. Let's go left or right, A or B, 1 or 2. That's not what a president does. They're actually hands-on, setting policy, making decisions, hiring people, convincing people. They're in the work. And Donald Trump, in the midst of all of that, is doing this nonsense with the belief that he has a power that is above that of kings. That's the problem. The unitary executive theory sits at the heart of Trumpism, at the heart of MAGAism, and Trump has believed this the entire time of his life. He would say things like the president should just fix it. He honestly believes the president can just say it. And everybody's like, that's not how it works. And he goes, well, in the unitary executive theory, that's why I can't be convicted for crimes. I can't do anything. There's a full functioning belief of the uniqueness of the president. The president has a lot of power, for sure. It should be restrained. But Donald Trump sees this as something totally reasonable for a person with that unbridled power.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do a TikTok
Which,
video.
to bring it full circle,
Got that
is
off
why
my
we
chest.
need to do everything we can to help people like Amanda Edwards get elected to Congress. Because in our system, where there are checks and balances, the courts are at times providing some of those checks and balances. There's a lot of pressure on them. What we need is a Congress that will also provide checks and balances to the
Yes.
President of the United States. And the only way to get that is to win elections. And if you heard Amanda, what she said, the big, beautiful bill passed by 1 vote, while her seat in Texas 18th District was empty.
Yeah.
If she's elected, she'll go to Congress immediately and can make an immediate difference.
Yep.
So we need to, if you're sitting there going, I don't want King Donald, then we need to make sure we get Congresswoman Edwards.
Yep. The big billionaire bill was pushed out of the House into the Senate. The big billionaire bill is not going to be taken down by the senators. Maybe you thought you heard Josh Hawley say he couldn't support the bill because he wanted to support Medicaid. Maybe you heard old Rand Paul talking about how the conservative voice and libertarians need to stand up and kind of have a backbone. Maybe you heard that senator from Tennessee say, we're going to do something about this. We're not going to. They will all cave. The big billionaire bill cannot be put in the hands of a bunch of Republican senators. You think Murkowski's not going to vote for it? Of course she is. You think Susan Collins is going to stand up with some backbone?
She's very concerned.
She's very concerned. She might write a strongly worded note. I mean, Josh Hawley went on a media tour telling people the big billionaire bill is going to strip Medicaid from people. and then said, I had a great conversation with Donald Trump and he assured me that wouldn't happen. It's in the words. Like it. So Josh Hawley then gets to defend the need for Medicaid and Medicare and support the bill that will strip it away. These are Republicans. They don't. Look, I voted for Republicans. I'm friends with a Republican. We're friends, right, Rob? Not just coworkers. I'm friends with a Republican, or used to be a Republican. They didn't used to be all bad people in elected office. They would stand up for things that mattered. Those people are gone now. They have been replaced by clones and robots that have no hearts.
Soulless.
Okay, gonna say one more thing about the nonsense in the Post. The critiques that Republicans have and Republican voters, and you know, if you're my friends and you're watching this and you're Republican, you know I love many of you, and I still believe this to be true. The critiques that you bring against Democrats are almost always, or most normally, or on any given day, fabricated, made up things that you want to be riled up about. Pizzagates, QAnon conspiracies, robots,
Jewish space lasers,
windmills, Hunter Biden's laptop, $10 million payments to Joe Biden from China. All not true. All not true. Critiques rest on that. And the critiques that many of us have about MAGA are all based on what they've literally done and said. So it's not the same thing. It's just, it is so bizarre. I mean, so many conversations with Republican supporting friends who will say, well, there's that. I'm like, if that wasn't true, would that change your view? No. That's just one data point along the path. That's not true, so it doesn't matter because I've got a bunch of other ones. What if they were all not true? Still wouldn't matter. What if the things we're saying about Donald Trump were true? Would that matter? No, that wouldn't matter. And if you're not in that world anymore and you're a Republican, it's okay to say goodbye to that. It's okay to let your dreams go, like love. And if it was truly yours, it will come back to you.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
It's better to have never loved
and lost.
Rob than to have loved and lost.
No. It's better
Let's
to
pray.
have loved and lost than never to have loved at all.
No. It's better to have never loved than to have loved and lost. Don't you think that's a more true sentiment?
Yeah.
I do. You know, it just. I feel like this is a scene from the movie Billy Jack. Have you seen Billy Jack, the movie?
I don't think so.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I don't think it's possible to fully understand American cinema. And I don't think it's possible to fully understand your friend Doug if you haven't seen the movie Billy Jack. So if you're interested in understanding either of those very deeply, check that out. And if you have seen Billy Jack, you know that point where he's in the cafe and he rubs his face.
It's not a movie I've seen.
Wow. So you probably haven't seen any of the threequel of Billy Jack. Are you familiar with the song, Go Ahead and Hate Your Neighbor? Go ahead and cheat a friend. You can do it in the name of heaven. You can justify it in the end, but there won't be any trumpets blowing come the judgment day. On the bloody morning after. Song title here. One tin soldier rides away. Unfamiliar. Unfamiliar.
You're older than me, Doug.
Oh. Oh, yeah. Apparently I am. I mean, my battery may not be full and my Wi-Fi might be a little weak.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're in the chat and you're familiar with either the movie Billy Jack or the song One Tin Soldier, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. You familiar with that
I
one?
know that.
Okay. All right. Michael rowed his boat ashore.
I know that one.
The marijuana getting high one about the dragon.
Puff.
Puff.
Yeah, know that one.
Okay. All right. Okay. But not One Tin Soldier.
I don't think so.
This is how you know if in your childhood you were being kept from the social justice movements
Oh, I totally was. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
of the 80s, 70s,
Yeah.
60s.
Yeah.
Well, look it
You
up.
know what I listened to the other day?
I would suggest you look up the traditional version of the song. There's many.
The other day I listened to...
Many people have done versions of it. I could do one for you right now.
I listened to Dream, Dream, Dream by the Everly Brothers. I don't think that's the name of it, but
Wow. Dream, dream, dream.
that's it.
Yeah. Because Spotify just dished it to you, or did you find it on your own?
No, it was actually it was a song I loved when I was a kid, and yeah, got played in our house, and
So
which was crazy because it has references to wine and the phrase "gee whiz" in it, which
did gee whiz mean something particular in your family that it didn't mean in the rest of
Well, clearly it was a
Mike Stavlin? I hope you're laughing out loud right now.
It's the slackers' way of taking the Lord's name in vain.
Oh, gee whiz.
The trouble is, I'm dreaming my life away.
That's the line? Gee whiz, the trouble is I'm dreaming my life away?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, hey.
Why are we talking about Billy Jack?
Well, because I was doing the... I'm just going to have to kick you in the face. Yeah, you got to watch the movie. I was just seeing if you knew it. And if anybody has, they will
Much more
easily know.
familiar with... No.
The Karate Kid.
Yeah, yes. Very.
But look up One Tin Soldier. And anybody, look, if you need some music tips from 1969, look up, or maybe 71, look up One Tin Soldier.
Okay.
Either listen attentively.
Yeah.
Or if you struggle with that.
We also, in the chat, we've got Eve of Destruction recommendations as well.
Oh. Was that from Jim? Let me just look.
No.
Antonia,
And
Eve
Alex.
of Destruction. Are you familiar with Eve of Destruction, Rob?
I am. I don't know One Tin Soldier. Maybe I would know it if I heard it, but I feel like I've got some homework coming out of this.
I feel it. I feel it too. I mean, at the risk of...
Oh, don't get us banned from YouTube.
Yeah, I was going to say, at the risk of us getting in big trouble.
You give me 29 seconds of it.
What is that sound? What is that sound playing when I'm doing that?
I hear no sound.
Why
This
is
is
it?
riveting podcasting. This, my friends, is why we are the number 20 most popular progressive Christian podcast, and also the 22nd most popular centrist podcast, which is a little crazy because I don't think of myself as a centrist, and I don't think of Doug Padgett as a centrist, and I don't think we exactly espouse centrist views here on this podcast. But according to some ranking, We are the 22nd most popular centrist podcast.
I don't know what's happening with my...
Maybe that's centrist as in like central time zone.
That's funny.
Got it figured out yet, Doug?
Well, yeah, I'm trying. I'm really working here.
I can listen to it on Spotify later.
Oh, don't do that. They paid you. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way.
Oh boy.
Because it's now making me wonder if there are other people who themselves... Still nothing. I just want to go to you, Rob, on full screen and see if we get a moment of recognition at all. Nothing.
Maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel great about this day. You are going to discover one tin soldier. I mean, I've never known a friend who has lived 50 years with no one tin soldier, and now will live some number of years with one tin soldier.
Well,
this is like
this is a big day. This is like BOTS.
I don't know what that is.
Like before One Tin Soldier and in the year of our One Tin Soldier.
Hey, not to give a spoiler alert, but the One Tin Soldier it's a reference to Vietnam War. But anyway, you'll get into it. Well, friends, thanks for being a part of all this. Antonia, thank you. Alex, thank you. Sorry to have your sister trigger you on your feelings of that song. A biggest thank you to Amanda for being on.
Jim, Kathy, Terry.
Yeah,
we're on earlier.
Yeah. Hey, Terry. Sent us a nice little greeting from Washington, D.C. That was nice.
Yeah. Amanda Edwards. Real deal.
Real deal.
Yeah.
So,
she did what didn't come up in the conversation. Law degree from Harvard.
Oh, well. You know who else has a law degree from Harvard?
Yeah, she's a smart cookie.
Mm-hmm. So is Ted Cruz, apparently, then. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Josh Hawley, Harvard or Yale?
I'm not sure. I don't know. All right. Good times.
You know who doesn't have a law degree from Harvard?
Barron Trump.
I was going to say you, but I like that better. Barron Trump, Tiffany Trump, Donald Trump, Eric Trump. All right. Well, go ahead and hate your neighbor. Go ahead and cheat a fan. You can do it in the name of heaven, but justify it in the end. There won't be any trumpets blowing come the judgment day on the bloody morning after this one tin soldier rides away. And vote common good.